All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 2 of the Coach Shawn Witten Show here on 107.9 The Bridge. I'm Stacy Street along with my partner Tony Briggs and Shawn Witten, head football coach of your Elizabethton Cyclones. Coach Witten, you come off a tough first game with Science Hill last week. Now that you've had a chance to digest the films and look at it, let's start with what good things that you saw from the film from the game last week.
Well, Stacy, I think our guys played with a lot of effort. We played with a lot of grit. We had guys flying all over the field. Really, the depth, got to us in the second half. And then we had a lot of guys playing really hard, and we got out of position a couple times. Missed some opportunities early in the game, but just to be down 14-7, just kind of the way the first half unfolded, I thought we still in pretty good shape. But they were pretty tough to stop in that Wildcat. They had some really good players, and you got to capitalize on some of those opportunities if you want to come out with a win against a good team.
Let's look at the other side. What's some of the things that you saw that you knew you need to have to work on this week?
Well, there's a lot of positives. You're going to get a lot of mental mistakes or maybe some errors, but for the most part, we established our run game the way we wanted to. We weren't as accurate as we needed to be in the passing game. For play action pass or the sprint out pass, play action bootlegs. To get red on the move a little bit. We kind of got stalemated a little bit and just kept running. One of the advantages for us, Stacy, is we were in 3rd and 5 or less a lot of our times. And so we missed 3 4th down conversions. It really hurt us, but. Some of the things that we've got to work on. Early in the game, we did a really good rocking our coverage down. We were able to kind of disguise it and move it down at the last little bit. That really helped us. But the thing that stands out for the most part, Stacey, is we didn't do a great enough job collectively as team tackling. We spent a lot of time team tackling, especially in the secondary, preventing big plays, and we didn't do a good job of that.
Talked last week about the identity of the team. Sometimes you can learn more about the identity following a loss than you can the win. How has that translated into practices this week, and how are the kids responding? Well,
we got to build off the positives we had. We got a number of guys that are trying to run the football in there. We got a number of guys rotating at tight end and H-back. We feel that we got a good core of receivers that can catch the ball, move the chains, be possession receivers. And so, I thought for the most part, offensive line gave us a really good push. We had a lot of new guys there. And defensively, we tried to mix up some coverages, mix up some fronts. I thought we did a great job of that. In the second half a little bit, they got to us. We didn't make the right adjustments. And so, big game, big crowd. First opportunity out there by themselves. Our guys got to learn to have a little bit more awareness, a little bit more formation by alignment, getting lined up and some areas there. And then, we just didn't do a good enough job of stopping that Wildcat formation to really give us problems all night.
You go back and you look, and we talked about it on the air, Stacy and I did. There was really 3 plays that really stood out that could have, we sit here say would have, could have, should have. That could have changed the play. First was the muff punt, where Science Hill fumbled a punt. That was one of them. We should have jumped on it and recovered. The other one was where they had the infraction for the mouthpiece, where it backed us up. We ended up punting the ball to the 1-yard line, and they had that big long run. If you take those 2 plays, we can play what ifs all the time. Other than that, I think we played a pretty good, sound, fundamental first half, especially.
Well, we did, and then our offense a little bit, and even the games, trying to find those chunk plays to capitalize on some big areas there. We knew that their secondary was going to be super aggressive. We knew they like to play a lot of man-to-man. We missed a downfield throw. We tried to go for a home run there with a flea flicker. Once we got the ball to the midfield, we had an opportunity there. That's been a good play for us in the past that we've been able to execute. And as aggressive as their secondary is, we thought that might be a big play for us. And we had the opportunities to get the turnover, like you mentioned. Our kicking game was where we needed to be. We thought we had an opportunity there to walk away with some points, and didn't capitalize off that. But we knew going into the game that we, from our punting to our kickoffs, from to turning the ball over to and penalties. We felt like we had an edge there because our guys were more disciplined in those categories and how good we are in the kicking game. We got the ball out to the 35 twice on the kickoff returns. Justin had a solid punt return. They got the ball in the midfield. So overall, in some small areas, we felt like going into halftime, just being down 14-7, considering everything that's kind of gone on, that we're still in a pretty good situation.
You turn around, you was talking about the depth, and you was talking about the offensive line play, the defensive line. Two players that stood out to me. One was Landon Hughes on the offensive side, and then flip around, Braden Rainwater on the defensive side.
It was pretty cool to see Landon, get some guard pulls up on some linebackers. You can try to simulate that in practice in the games, but man, he did a phenomenal job. I think we called his guard pull on the second play of the game. It was pretty cool to see him roll and almost pancake that linebacker. And then Rainwater just established himself from the very get-go on both sides of the ball. Just being a D tackle, he split the double team, got the first tackle of the game, which was huge. It was great to see those guys play. Talk about kids like Seth Campbell, an opportunity to play defense for the first time in a big game. He was so excited. And then, Kyle did a superb job at defensive end. I thought, Kyler McGovern made a lot of plays. Riley Jones was pretty active. We're going to need all those guys to be a really good football team, to stay healthy. Ben is obviously an X factor. But, man, it was pretty cool to see the guys, the interior linemen, step up and make some plays. And, I think there's a lot of things to build from that.
And final on this first segment, you look back, we had a four-headed monster running back by committee. Each one of them brings their own little separate identity to their style of run. How did you look at that and grade the overall play of the running backs?
Well, I thought we played complementary football. I thought we tried to keep them fresh and keep them go. I thought it was cool to see Landry came in, was at practice a couple days, but he had sidelined with an injury earlier in the week, and was able to kind of tough it out. He was playing a lot of defense as well. Justice played every snap of defense, so it's pretty cool to see those guys step in and have some good bird. 65 yards, rushing on the day, a solid night. He did what we thought he could do, and obviously there's some. Landry's got a different speed, a different burst to him. CJ, had some good carries as well. So, we got Landry and CJ splitting time at linebacker, also there at running back. So it's good to see us, that can play big for us as we move along in the season.
I lied. We got another question. Me and Stacy took over and under on huddle. Is this something that you look going forward, that it may be something that we're going to incorporate as we go along in the season?
It was different, but I thought we needed it, especially in the first half, to kind of settle our nerves. And when we went to a couple personnel changes, I thought it helped us, to make sure that we were right where we needed to be. We used 2 early timeouts, in some short yardage situations. The first one we tried to get them to jump off sides of midfield to get easy first down, and then later on we kind of went for it on a couple fourth downs. But the huddle was good for us. I thought that when we went to certain packages, it played dividends for us, and we felt like at the halftime, I felt like our guys were in pretty good shape, pretty good condition, that if we got a chance to recover, we had an opportunity to make a strong push for the second half.
It was definitely different from the booth seeing both teams huddling. That's going to do it for the first half of last week's recap. When we come back after these words, we'll preview tonight's contest as your Cyclones look to avenge last week's loss, as Mo West coming in to visit your Cyclones at Citizens Bank Stadium. All that to come after these words. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the Coach Shawn Witten Show. Coach, Morristown West comes limping in. This will be the 9th time that we played them, 4-4 all time. They were coming off a hard loss last week to crosstown rival Morristown East. Give a little bit of an overview of what to expect from this Mo West team.
Well, I was hoping a lot of those guys had graduated because they were pretty tough last year, but found out they got 28 seniors still on the roster. Really good football team. Both teams coming off a crosstown rival loss. Just didn't. Both teams didn't do enough to win, but Morristown West has got they're a big bunch. they're really good across the board. Play 2 quarterbacks, got a big offensive lineman at 6'6", 330. That went against Mason Ball last year. They got stud running back. They ended up playing 3 in last week's game. Really solid across the board. The thing that you got that's different for us moving forward is Science Hill was able to do multiple formations without sub personnel. That's what you're going to get in tonight's game against Mo West. Number 13, number 24, tight end H-backs, they'll move out the receivers. So they do multiple formations where they don't have to sub. So you right off the bat, defensively, have got to be able to line up the different formations. That's some of the things we were able to do in the past. Having a guy like Cam Baker from tight end to H-back to receiver, moving people around, you can jump in a bunch of different formations and you don't allow the opposing team to substitute. And so that right there causes a lot of problems. But they were one of the best teams in 5A a year ago. They're a strong football team that does a solid schemes offensively and defensively. It's a lot like playing ourselves. A lot of gap schemes and quick throws, and the difference is they'll play 2 quarterbacks, but they do a really good job of what they do, and I'm sure they're going to come in hungry tonight to try to get a big win.
You go back to last year's contest. We fell down 7-0, had 2 early picks early on, come back to win 27 on a short and condensed game. What can you take from that game with their game plan and incorporate it tonight against them?
Well, without coming away with 2 big turnovers in that game by Zeth Mullins, Caleb Campbell, we don't really walk away with the win. So we've got to force more turnovers. We've got to be aggressive and try to establish an early lead. We've got to be solid in our kicking game. And I think too, we were pretty on it, in our first couple of series defensively and offensively. We got 3 runs that we really liked offensively. They got us that 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, we had some opportunities there in the passing game that we just didn't take advantage of. But we've got to be a multi-possession receiver group of catching the ball, moving the chains, catch the ball, move the chains. And we've got to do that, push the ball downfield. We've got to try to spread the ball out a little bit more. And we've got to do things that kind of tip those tendencies to keep people off balance. And, we've got some things that we want to try to do, but ultimately tackling better, rallying to the football, swarming there, continue to limit the mistakes and the penalties, a lot of different ways. But both teams need a big win tonight.
Last question for Handed Stacy. Going forward offensively, and we know how you like to tweak it here, a little tweak over there. What do you envision after week 1? What do you envision going into tonight's game plan? And then as that leads into week 3, week 4, what do you envision?
Well, I think most teams, see that we're going to be a running football team, whether they provide an extra linebacker in the box or roll the coverage. I thought Science Hill did a good job with an older secondary. They continue to bring the safeties closer. And, when you get to another hat in the box where, Jay Bird, Justice, and those guys getting free, there's a safety there preventing, what could be a 15, 20-yard run and makes it a 7-yard run. So we've got to be ready to keep them off balance tendency-wise. Receivers got to do a good job of winning to the line of scrimmage to get open, and then we've got to do a good job of making sure that we have some things to answer some of their run sets on defense.
Coach, you talked a little bit about last year's game, and I can remember we rolled down to Morristown, and we were riding high on that victory last year. And Tony and I were up in the booth, and we could see them. Everything's an away game for West, even at home. They pulled up in their bus and they got off, and I made a comment to Tony. I'm like, man, there's a lot of them, and those guys are big.
Yeah.
And once they took the field, we saw the speed that they had. It may not be 6A Science Hill size and speed, but tell our listeners a little bit about this 5A team. They look like a legitimate 5A team.
Well, Morristown East, Morristown West, they're 2 really big schools, and then, they got some stud running backs as well. The running back they got last year, came over from Morristown East. came in the second half, ran it really well, stayed fresh. They've got 3 backs over 200 pounds. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And then, you're going to see a big offensive lineman. You're going to see a Saturday type offensive lineman coming in here, big 72. And, they've got some guys that they got a tight end H-back, number 24 that's, about 6'3", that brings a dimension for them offensively, like we talked about in different formations. But they're solid, they're big, they're strong. They run a good program, always have. Morristown West typically have always carried a lot of numbers. And, obviously an upsetting loss last week to Morristown East. Things didn't go their way, so tonight, there's going to be a really good football team.
What do you envision? Last week you talked about the good efforts on defense, and I thought Ben Adams, he had a cast on one arm and the other arm was wrapped up, and blind in one eye and can't see out of the other. But he gave it a valiant effort. How do you address those 200-pound backs? Are you going to stunt more, or are you going to try to play the base?
Well, the things that happens even with them is they do a good job of mixing up outside and inside runs. They do have speed to get to the edge. They'll give you different things. They also run a 2 quarterback system, which causes difficulty at times. You got to be on your toes every time somebody comes in, and they try to counter you with you on different things and try to go against tendencies. But I think for the most part we showed our guys. We're not far away from being a really, really good football team. We got to battle. Things aren't always going to look pretty. I think that's going to be our kind of winning motto the rest of the year is, just kind of have an ugly loss versus a pretty win. And I think that, Friday shows that we're not far away from being a really good football team. A few plays here and there, changes the landscape of the first half against Science Hill, but tonight's just going to be another gutsy performance by our guys. Our effort was there. There was a couple times Landry Buckles was really running to try to score down on the goal line. He was fighting with everything he had. I just think that if we can settle down a little bit quicker, get into the game, and hopefully we can be in a little bit better position to finish the game versus last week.
Last question for me, Coach. What's the one key for tonight?
Just getting off to a little bit faster start offensively. To see if we can. We move the ball a little bit better, that kind of have a opening drive success, and to see if we can, somewhat try to create like a splash play, to really get us excited, to get our guys to really come together and really rally together, and see if we can get our crowd behind us, from the very first play.
Coach Witten, as always, we thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to do it for tonight's version of the Coach Shawn Witten Show. We'll be back on 107.9 The Bridge in just a moment, and Tony and I will have your pregame as the Morristown West Trojans come into Citizens Bank Stadium to face your Elizabethton Cyclones. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.